My name's Greg Young. I'm in the entertainment business, producing and creating content. I came from a family with no money, no financial education. I learned the trade that I was in from my father, who actually worked at a theater. So here I was, making a living, but not knowing how to be financially responsible. So I think that I'm trying to. At first, I was just a regular member, and I enjoyed the letter so much that and you would see these messages, if you want to hear more, or you can learn more about this on Brief Pro. There was a few topics where you took a deep dive, and I just wanted to. I enjoyed the letter. I think it was a few months of just reading the regular letter, that I just wanted to have a better appreciation for, the weekend news and deeper dives in subjects. And when you concentrate and focus on, whether it's, I'm just picking one out of a million you've done, like, water. You did like a whole Breeze Pro thing on, what does water mean and the different companies and how, the economics and businesses behind it. I'm just throwing one out of the air, but those types of things you don't have enough time to review and communicate. Oh, zero. When I saw that there was there was more to be able to be digested and understood, I immediately just hit the link and went in, and I've not turned back. I mean, I appreciate the daily letters. So once again, I wasn't new to finances, but I was new to understanding how everything worked and how they come together. So, I think it was more you taking current affairs and being able to condense them into layman's terms, such as myself. Like I think today's you had, the tariffs tug of war, for example. Tariffs are a big thing. I didn't understand when I first started listening to you and reading your newsletters, just the dynamic or interconnectivity of the Fed and the bond market and the stock market as a whole, and how the levers work with each, and so all these things help me get a better appreciation for the market, or how to position myself and how do I want to position my my finances. Oh gosh, the favorite thing. Well, I think it's just the snapshot, right? Like you have a headline that starts. You always have like a immediately I can see the economy. You always post the 10-year, the gold. Where all the different marking points are, and then you have like the current subject. If you read 3 or 4 letters, you realize that most of the things that are hot topics you cover in your letter. So if you don't have a lot of time, like I said, I read it every morning and I refer to it back in the evening. So before I joined Briefs Pro, as I mentioned earlier, the difference of how I'm handling my money is thinking about my money and thinking about how I'm positioning my money. And I learned from you more of what the global market means. And instead of just taking, a shotgun approach to, I'm going to put a lot of stuff in a lot of different areas, I learned about diversification, and based upon where you are in life and the things that matter to you, how to lean into more things than another for positioning. I also learned that, when I mentioned before, what is money, people just, our educational system doesn't really provide you an informative background on what is money, right? Like when in your letters, I've learned when there's a strong dollar, there's a weak dollar. Well, what does that mean? You ask anybody on the street, what does that mean? I mean, and now I know what that means. And I know when the dollars are, a strong or weak dollar versus, yields in the bond market. And when I hear about things from the government or the Fed, as far as what they're doing, I know what that means to the market and what things are going to be a reflection of those decisions, so you can position yourself. Where before, I had no idea what any of those things meant, right? It's like, so I also learned that, when you deploy when you deploy your energy, right, and you're reimbursed for anything that you do, right? That's energy is nothing other than, time and energy, right? Money's just time and energy in a distracted form. If you go perform a service for someone and they pay you for it, then that's time and energy. And how do you store that time and energy, right? And I wasn't one of these people, but I see kids these days just spending everything they earn on whatever they want, right? And the value of money is something that I learned from, just reading and being one of your, pro readers, that what do you do with that? When you have that money for time and energy, that's very valuable. How do you store that? How do you position it? Which, your letter helps me understand in a more informative way what to do with what your value and time has been spent on in the past and how to position it for the future. So Brief Pros have helped me not only save money, but also it's informed me on how to save money, the trends and where to position your money, right? Being able to put it this way, it's more like the more you read Brief Pros, the more you're reading tea leaves on the market and have an understanding of how to position your money. I would have, like I said before, I would have just had it in a checking account and listened to tips on the street. Now I understand different methods, right? Some people do the 60-40. Some people lean more into taking a position of crypto. Some people understand from your letter how the bond markets move, right? And yields. And before, I had no strategy. At least now I have a strategy, and I've learned that if you have a strategy, right, then why is that your strategy? Write down that strategy and make sure you stick with that strategy. And then if things like, Tesla, or the tech, the big seven or the banks or whatever are part of your strategy, then you get updates when you read your letter, because you normally cover all those topics. Well, I guess I wouldn't give them so much advice. I would ask them a question. Would you rather be well informed or briefly informed on what to do with your life earnings and the markets today and how you position yourself? Knowledge is power, right? So you can scan your phone, TikTok, Twitter, whatever, and you can actually start asking yourself, if I spend a half an hour just going through tweets, or when you walk away 10 minutes later, ask yourself, did you recall anything from wasting that half hour of your life? If you read a newsletter such as Brief Pros and you're interested in what it has to say, it only makes sense to have a deeper knowledge to do Brief Pro rather than the brief. And you're not forgetting what you read 10 minutes ago. You're applying those principles. It's like compounding knowledge, like compounding markets, right? Every day you're understanding how things tie in a little bit better to be able to position yourself in a market that you now understand. Once again, I think that, what you did, at least for me, I'm sure you've done for other people. And there's a lot of individuals, I'm sure, because I speak with them every day and they don't understand what I'm saying. I didn't understand what I was saying now and the knowledge base that I have now after reviewing Brief Pros. But you were able to communicate very complicated global macro concepts in layman's terms to me at that point in time that I understood and got really interested. So I'm sure there's a lot more people like me who would benefit.